All right. My dear fellow listeners, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine. Let's Chit Chat with Narine is a Canadian initiative with a global impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we are live streaming our chit chat, so do take the opportunity to share our page. Tonight is extremely special because I was able to get a hold of one of Canada's top 25 Canadian immigrant who I'm very much happy to get to know over the years. And he's no other than Sukhjit Singh. He joined us because he's going to take the opportunity to share not only his talent, his strengths, his barriers, and all of that with us tonight. So that way, you and I, we can get some tips as to how we can be successful individuals, especially for those of you who are living out of Canada and are probably planning to move and migrate to Canada. So this is an extremely important chit chat. So do take the opportunity to share a page. So Sukhjit, thank you so much for joining us here on Let's Chit Chat with Narine. How are you doing tonight? No, your thing is off there. Yeah.
Sure, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I know.
You know what? I
Yeah.
paused myself, but thank you so much. I was enjoying the slides before the show, and all these years I know you, and and I'm actually very excited today to be on your show, and yeah, and technically this is my first time Facebook Live. I have never done Facebook Live. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm actually very excited and looking forward to our chit chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we have chosen it for a reason. I mean, both of us met, during when both of you and I, obviously were named Canada's top, 25 Canadian immigrant in the same year, which obviously was a very special time for yourself, for me, and so on. But we'll focus on you tonight. So we want to kind of take every opportunity so you can give us some tips, because different things work for different people. But you and I know that there are things we can do to make sure things work for us so that we make the best out of our, new transition, coming from different part of the world and make Canada our home. So this will be a really good chit chat. So before we get into all the bits and pieces in terms of question and how you did it and all of that, why not take a minute or so and introduce yourself so that people know that when you came to Canada, you came with some solid background as well too.
Oh
So
yes,
go
oh yes.
ahead.
This question is very interesting itself. You know what? By profession now I'm a career strategist. So when I meet with individual and especially newcomers, this is a very typical question. Tell me about yourself. But today on your show, I'm going to tell everything about myself, and I may take a bit longer than average interview question. Um, I will start with my profession. I started my profession as a system analyst. That was my first job, and it was not in Canada. I was born, raised in India, and I finished my diploma. And very soon, I got my first job, and my title was system analyst. For roughly 2 years, I was working as a system analyst in one of the oldest electrical manufacturing company in the northern province of India, Punjab.
Mhm.
And I'm very proud of my first job with with that particular brand because number one, it was my first job. Number two, I was working with one of the oldest computer system in India.
Oh, wow.
Then you know what, I was very young. I decided to move on to a new profession, and I became a computer instructor. So almost for a year and a half I was working in India as a computer instructor. And then I got an opportunity to work in Oman. It's a beautiful country, beautiful coastal country, next to, like, it is below Dubai if you look at the map.
Mhm.
And there I went there for a job which was offered by campus. This was a affiliated campus with Glasgow Caledonian University. And I initially thought I'll spend some time, but I ended up being there for 9 years. And then I moved to Canada in 2009. And again, coming to Canada, once again, there was an opportunity for me to embrace change, and big actually change happened in Canada. And when we move ahead with other questions, and in Canada, after 6 months of struggle, 6 months of learning and unlearning, I ended up in being non-profit. It was by choice. I wanted to work in non-profit because I myself was facing all those challenges, and I was learning a lot, and I wanted to share that learning. And I chose non-profit, and I became a frontline worker. And today I'm very proud that I work with the organization. It is Center for Education and Training. I was once client of that wonderful organization, and I'm very proud of my work, my colleagues there. And in all these years, wherever I have worked, I gained a lot of experience. I gained so much that from the day one, I went to job, either my volunteer work or my regular job. I decided that beyond my 9 to 5 job, I will give back to the community as a volunteer. So yeah, so that's a little bit of introduction. Now I have two certifications which I am very proud of. I am a certified career strategist. I'm a proud member of Career Professionals of Canada, and I know, Narine, you also have finished. You're a proud graduate from Conestoga College, also.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I am also a certified community resource specialist, which is through Inform Canada. I'm also a proud member, and I sat on the board also for some time. So this is brief. I live in Mississauga. I always worked in Peel, within Peel region, and it's my 10th year in Canada as an immigrant. Now I'm a proud citizen, settled Canadian, and I'm doing my Canadian way of living, plus following the core Canadian value. I'm a big volunteer, big time volunteer.
Yeah.
So this is my longest introduction, Narine.
No, and I'm glad you took the time to kind of introduce yourself well, because we want people to know obviously who you are. You mentioned something very interesting, and I'm aware of your organization. By the way, they had offered me a position as well too. So they have. I'm not sure if this will have it, but this will be nice for you to touch on it at least with a yes or no answer, because it is very. It's a very unique program. So they used to have a program where you don't necessarily have to be in Canada to access the service. You technically, it is for people who are out of the country, but they're in the process to land in Canada, but they have to get their residency, or will be getting the residency when they land. I'm not sure what they call it, but some newcomer something. Do they still have that program?
It's pre-arrival program,
Yes, yes.
and yes, sadly that program is. It's been run by other organizations, but not with our organization. But yes, still in a way, we do serve those who are yet to come to Canada.
So you still do that somewhat as well too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just thought I asked quickly. I didn't mean to get into that, but I know that people are watching who are out of Canada as well too. And so ideally, if people can connect themselves with those kinds of program, at least they'll have a good sense. With a lot of important pieces, things that they are going to need, you know what I'm talking about, to kind of really get their feet wet and kind of get going kind of thing. So anyway, so thank you for that.
No
so obviously we have lots to talk about. You have achieved a lot within a short period of time. You're very much passionate about community work, and those are the kind of things that fits with my values. Like that's what we do best, actually. Right? It's who we are. But what was your first impression when you came to Canada? Millions of people would love to come to a country like Canada. You had a good job, good career prior to you came to Canada here. In some cases, many people are not in those kinds of positions. They just want to get out of war situation, poverty, whatever. So let's not get into all of that. But when you first see Canada and you land in Canada and you realize that you're going to make Canada your home, what was your first impression when you start to navigate and kind of discovering Canada really in terms of opportunities?
You know what? Your question is my first impression, but I have to give you a little bit of background. Because the impression, especially, I did mention about my country of origin. I'm very proud Indian. I'm from the northern part, which is Punjab. It's a very rich state, and the impression in majority of my state, you start building up the moment you're born there, because either in your neighborhood or your village or your city or somebody in your either friend circle or family circle is outside of India, either Canada, UK, England, Australia, New Zealand, and different countries. Now people are all over the world. So when I was growing up, from our family, there was nobody who actually worked outside of India. Though my uncle, my father's eldest brother, he traveled outside. My aunt, she traveled outside, but nobody was living, right? But every now and then, my dad will bring a friend or somebody in our neighborhood will come, and they will, they were different. The way they dressed, the way they spoke, and the most important thing is the way they said the things are done differently in those countries. So, and sometimes you also get a gift, right? So that infatuation about what is that magic land, why those lands are different, right? So that is ingrained in the beginning, right? So when I was growing up, I finished my education. There was a plan to go somewhere so that I can also enjoy that differentness, like whatever is different, right? So I applied for a student visa to Canada, but I did not succeed, right? So, but then, I moved to Oman. But when I was preparing for Canada, there were certain things. Few things I knew that there is a large Indian diaspora. And I never knew whether I'm going to Toronto or Vancouver. But on back of mind, I knew that there is a lot of Indian population. And if you again subcategorize this, there was a lot of Punjabi population, right? So from my connections, from my parents or my extended family members connection, somehow this this idea of, okay, in terms of your eating and all that stuff, it won't be that different. You will get everything. But yes, in terms of your profession, it will be a lot different, right? But in that impression, when I applied to move to Canada, and now this story will entice with what you were mentioning before. When I knew that I am coming to Canada with my family, I decided to join that pre-arrival program. And I was very fortunate that just a month before my migration from my home country to Canada was happening, I was fortunate to attend that 2-day program. I attended the full 2-day program, more than like 16 hours of that program, they give you orientation and all that stuff. So then, you try to process that information, because there is one information which your ethnic newspaper will give in India, and you see the pictures of prominent Indian businessmen, prominent Indian politicians and all. But then when you get to know the other information, that how your life as an immigrant would be, it's not very encouraging to know everything, because you also now tend to Google, right? And honestly, my research was giving me this indication that either you will make it or you will come back. So believe it or not, when we decided to come to Canada, we bought a a return ticket with us, that if nothing works out, we will go back. That was the thing, right? But in terms of impression, I also knew that if Canada is known as land of opportunities, there must be something for me also, right? But now it is after landing in Canada, right? First impression, definitely very warm people, very different, right? And I'm talking about 10 years ago.
That's
now,
right.
But to me, it is as fresh as it happened yesterday.
Awesome. Good.
And when I came, I was really touched by the gesture of like the kindness, the smile. And you know what? Nobody was rushing. Everybody was easy. And I'm talking about my, can I continue? I think Narine is away, but I will continue with my story. So what I was saying is, I'm glad you're back. I hope everything is fine, Narine.
Oh, yes, everything is fine. I just went to turn on some lights on there.
Okay. So I was saying,
okay, go ahead.
The first impression about Canada and Canadians, the mark in our heart was made right at the airport. And especially, I always mention, I never left this example of kindness and generosity of Canadians when a porter whom we hired to help us with our luggage. So that was my first impression about Canada. And you know what? I don't want to talk about further, because I know in your following questions, you may somewhere ask me about my other part of my journey. But my first impression was really heartwarming, really welcoming, and really smiling people. Right? I come from India, but I have spent a lot of time in Oman, almost 9 years. My expectation, you come living in certain culture, but when you see a different culture, definitely, and it was all positive in the beginning.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Of course, I mean, you are a positive person, so you always find a way to put a positive spin to everything, which is a good thing. I mean, I've never heard you say, any too much or anything negative. At least I haven't heard, So I'm glad that you
Thank
actually
you.
you were able to see positive pieces. You were able to kind of see bright future kind of thing, from the time you land here in Canada. And I mean, and it worked out well for you. I mean, I know you are in nonprofits and so on now, but it fits with your values because you are a people person, of course. I remember, I think you've mentioned sometime in a speech or some seminar or something, you mentioned that you're never out of resources. You always carry resources when it comes to helping people. So
Always.
you always have them in your car. So if you meet somebody and you need any sort of resources to kind of really get by, whether that be, information for, whether, anything, jobs
Whatever.
or
Whatever.
settlement or whatever, you have it with you. And so that's a good way to, because that's a beautiful thing, because when you mention about that, I thought to myself, what a great idea, because I used to work for a company called, or an organization called Opportunities Waterloo Region. So we used to do a lot of mobile stuff. So we don't necessarily allow client to come to us. We go to the client. So we make it easy, because we realize, we are, bridge some gap here. So if the client can't come to us, then we're going to go to them. So a lot of mobile rates will travel and
Wonderful.
whatever issues they have, we work it out. So when you mentioned that, I said, he is on point here because, because if somebody meet with you and say, no, I realize you've went through this process, you have any information for me. And then if you say, oh, well, send me an email, here's my business card, you would know that's not going to go too far because
I know.
I
I know
have like
for
so
sure.
many business cards, you're not going to believe in that. So the fact that you think that way is a beautiful thing, because that way, if people are talking about settlement, you can give them brochure and say, here you go, here's something for you, and at least it's a little bit more better that way, kind of things. Awesome. So
And
good
can I
for you.
can I can
Yes,
I add something to it? I
of
tell
course.
you one thing. That was my beginning. That was my beginning.
Hmm.
And you know what? I'm a curious person. We all are. Human being is a curious person.
Hmm.
But my curiosity was at a different level, and it is still date. It is at a different level,
Hmm.
because I want to know. I want to know everything, because I know if not me, someone else knows something. This is where I say we don't know everything, we
All right.
know something. And I love to share what I know. So in 10 years, I can tell you, Narine, I have developed this expertise, except few sectors, except few things. I think in general, if you are ever looking for resources for A, B, C, I'm ready. I don't need to even refer to a website. I'm ready, right? And now, after 10 years, being in nonprofit, 1 year, I even served a political office also, a MPP's office. That was a turning point in my life when I learned more about the community resources.
Mhm.
Now, any level of government, and if you're reaching out to resources, at least with God's grace, I know that how things works in Canada also. And
Uh,
believe it or not, it did not only help me, but it helped those who were in need of help. And I'm very proud of that. And again, it's not me, but again, those wonderful individuals who came to my life, still coming, like yourself. I still remember our one quick meeting when I was visiting African lion safari, if you remember,
that's
in
right.
one of those
Yes.
summers,
We
right?
really
Right.
bump into each other. That's
So
right. Mhm.
anytime I don't let it go waste,
Mhm.
I know that I can assist the community, I can help the community. And what I don't know, I do know who knows it. So
Correct.
that's kind of, I count my blessing that, you know what, and again, I will say this word again during all this is when when we hear this word land of opportunity, it's really a magical land. And I know we are going through tough time, COVID-19 and certain other challenges which community is facing right now. But I say, you know, these opportunities and what resources I'm talking about are very helpful. I'm very blessed to know a little bit, and I'm still learning more.
You know, you brought up a very good point there. You know, I mean, of course, I mean, there's a reason why I brought you on the show in the first place. But I'm aware that you have lots of knowledge when it comes to, how community operates, how things, how to navigate, through to kind of, get things done and so on, all the basic stuff that people are probably struggling, to kind of really get the grabs on and so on. So I'm aware of that. But I'm also very proud that you're actually taking the time, the privilege really to kind of really, you are not afraid to help people.
No.
You do it with sort of a pride. And that's one of the reasons, it came of no surprise when you were named one of Canada's top 25 Canadian immigrants within a short time, when you think about it that way. And so you were able to find yourself, you were able to, see the positive pieces kind of thing, because it could go the other way as well too, because if people are not able to navigate, or if they're not able to see, the light at the end of the tunnel and things of that kind, if they're afraid to ask for help, things like that, they can get stuck too. I'm pretty much sure
Yes.
you agree
Yes,
with
very
me,
correct.
right? Right. But if they're open, the difference with you, I think, is that you're open, you always willing to learn, you keep learning, you never stop learning. I mean, you've grown so much even from the time when we first or previously met to now. Like, you have grown so much, which is
Thank you.
awesome. And I mean, a lot of people, of course, have and will continue to benefit from you based on the resources. My light just gone there. I want to try to fix there,
Oh my
but
God.
it's gone. No, that's okay. We're
You
good.
still look handsome, Narine. Don't worry. You
But
have enough. You have enough glow on your face, so you're shining.
you know, it goes to show that everything comes to an end. So that is fine. So I know what to do next now. Yeah. So I mean, you actually you you are in the right field is what I'm trying to say,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
work with a lot of immigrants, you work with a lot of newcomers, and people always need these kinds of services. The sad piece usually though is that when people find out like 2 3 years after that, what, there were services available for them to
Yes.
kind of make life a little bit easier, but they don't find out, or they didn't find out, right from the beginning. So the
Yeah.
fact that we have active people like yourself really makes a huge difference for sure. So you
Thank you.
keep that going. But I will have to ask you though, because I've spoken, as you know, I work with a lot of immigrants myself too in our area here.
Mhm.
What are some of the challenges that you have seen or you have encountered yourself,
Mhm.
as a person coming to Canada here, whether that be race, whether that be, I mean, I don't see you navigating stuff being a challenge because it looks like that's what you do best. But were there challenges, prior, or are you seeing challenges for you to
I
kind of move
I
forward?
tell you one thing, and thanks for asking.
Mm,
This itself is a
mm,
challenging question.
mm,
And I tell you one thing, I have done a lot of interviews and all, and
mm,
today and there also I spoke my heart,
mm.
and today also, but I will add a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Before I talk about challenges,
Mhm,
I will talk about what I faced
mhm.
initially in Canada.
Absolutely.
And
We want
and
to hear it. We want to hear it.
yes, the fear of unknown.
Mhm,
I never traveled to Canada before actually migrating to Canada.
mhm,
My
mhm,
daughter was not even 2 years old, like she was 18 months and a few days old.
mhm,
My wife, I mean, she's a school teacher now, but when we came, I had no job, she had no job, we have few contacts.
mhm,
The fear of unknown,
mhm,
that was like, and you know what, there is another cultural thing I will say, Narayan, and I'm not hesitant to share that.
mhm,
A South Asian having a very good job, migrating to Canada. So the society's expectation, your family, your friends' expectation, it is different. But what you go through as an individual, male or female or any other gender, you only know that.
mhm,
And honestly, I had a big fear. I knew that I have some saving. I knew how to how to survive in that mode. But there was a fear that what will happen to my life? Will I be ever able to even survive? Forget about awards and recognition, that can come later. But your existence is in question when you move. And this is not only moving to Canada. If you move from even your in your own country, you come from one province to another province, a lot of challenges.
Mhm.
But here is a challenge which is so much of like double or triple or four times more is you don't know what future holds. You
Mhm.
don't know, and everything is unknown. And
Mhm.
on top of that, on the lighter side of life, after a few days, I got my first real fear. My fear was to take a transit. And the fear came, though I had a, okay, I can say English is not first language.
Mhm.
Hindi, Punjabi is where I was born, right?
That's right.
Then I
Yeah.
worked there. I got to use English, and I barely, can tell you that, like, what, I was okay with English.
Mhm.
But you know what? When it is really unknown fear, like, how do I talk? What do I need to do?
Mhm.
And no matter what preparation you make, but ground reality, when you actually go to the station, when you go to the bus stop, and then you know what, that fear till date, and I did mention in my book,
Mhm.
fear fear is fear, big or small. So that is what, that is my first fear. But then once you overcome one fear, another fear will come.
Mhm.
My second biggest fear was, like, I was so afraid with this turban and beard. I know South Asian population, it's like we are very diverse here, especially in GTA.
Of course, of
but
course. Mhm.
but but people were telling me, like, you will face challenges and all this and that. In my journey, at one point, I also got some kind of messaging in terms of one particular email. Somebody was suggesting, with the turban and a beard, I may not even survive. I need to shave off my my
Mhm.
beard. You know what? All these things were adding to my anxiety.
Mhm.
All these things were actually making me more fearful. But you know what? God has created human being in a very smart, very intelligent way. Fear come, and there will be somebody, either a book or an individual or somebody in your family, who will come as you to save you from that fear, and then you move on.
That's right.
So, and thank God, I always have support from, especially from my wife, and now my daughter, she's 12 now, and
Mhm.
also my extended family in India, my in-laws, my uncles, my aunts, like whoever. So I had that kind of confidence that, what, even if I drown, somebody will pull me out. I don't know how it looked like. But as soon as I realized, and then comes the regular immigrant challenges,
Mhm.
your resume, your interview, your appearance, everything. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning. When I decided my way of job hunt was not working, I better learn.
Mhm.
I better learn, plus unlearn certain things. So if my learning was this much, my unlearning was that much, based on the Canadian job market, in terms of the context in the Canadian job market, right?
That's
But
right.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad I finished that 3-week program, and that too, I finished at the Center for Education and Training, where I got first-hand information that what is not acceptable in Canada in terms of when you're looking for a job.
Mhm.
And then, as soon as I realized my mistakes, I will call mistakes, because Canadian standard and my standard, they were not matching in terms of my job search.
Mhm.
As soon as I learned the trick, in beginning, it looks like a trick that, oh, instead of 7 pages, you put 2 pages. Instead
That's
of
right.
doing this, you do this. Instead of knocking the door and asking, can I get a job? Instead, say, good morning, how are you doing? Right? Put here, there, like a lot of things. Like, I'm just giving you a very
Of
basic
course.
example,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it is a lot different.
Mhm.
Now I'm more confident in reaching out to any stranger. But 10
Mhm.
years ago, I was like a child who
Mhm.
started learning how to walk, how to talk, and all that stuff. Then, one most important thing which I learned, and this is where I always give this advice to anyone, irrespective of either they are immigrant or refugees
Mhm.
or people on work permit or students.
Mhm.
You need to follow certain individuals who made big mark in Canada, because
Correct.
we all have some wisdom to share. And from one of those individuals, I got one key point, and I decided to try it out. And that one thing was try out volunteering. And I said, you know what, if out of all those success secret, nothing else, at least let me try this. And through a wonderful organization, which I'm very proud to mention here also, Volunteer MBC, it's a Peel based organization. Through them, I got my first opportunity to teach basics of computer, right? So that was my turning point, because earlier my confidence level was going down, no job, and people telling you stories after stories that it is better for you to buy shoes, factory shoes, hard-toed shoes. I did buy, but I never wore those. My destiny took me somewhere else, where I ended up in volunteering and volunteerism. My life completely changed. The confidence I got from my volunteer work, in 6 months, I landed in September, late September, and my first job started in April, I believe so, March or April in 2010. 6 months it took me to learn, unlearn, and start contributing. And imagine, without a job, I started contributing. But biggest contribution in my success till date is my volunteer work. Then it was learning. Now it is sharing. It has expanded. I just wanted to explore why people say things are done differently in Canada. Canadians are different. Then I realized it is different because I am new. I need to learn certain things, not to change myself, but to either behave or talk. I tend to speak very fast when I use my third language, which is English. I tend to speak very fast. I slowed down. I toned it. My pitch, thanks to my DNA, my father is though engineer, but he's a singer also.
Oh.
So my pitch is very high. I'm loud, right? And I am lot of time. I still know that, sometimes I come across very strong, right? So it's not that I changed, but I learned that people whom you are meeting for the first time may not know you, right?
That's correct.
So all this and my volunteer work made a strong base. My foundation was actually built by volunteerism, and I started building. I changed jobs. My contract was over. I got new contract. My job was changed. One thing I never left was to be a volunteer. And I tell you one thing, what a blessing it is for me. Not only that I got my confidence back, I was in position to help others. And now at this stage, because when you were saying, now it comes so natural now, because now it is 10 years you have already spent in the industry, knowing the job market, not only that, but the society as a whole. So I always say, not only job, I'm blessed that I work in the same sector where it is help, right? But then after my job hours, my whole time is dedicated to help people, no matter what, from where they are, what is their status. If somebody reaches out to me, definitely I am always open to them. So that's what I wanted to share. The challenges, yes, identity is always a challenge. It will stay. It is there today. But again, when you are new, you don't have multiple things. But now with time, you know how to handle. I mentioned about a racist email which was sent to me. I did not know how to respond then. But today, if I get any comment and all, I do know my rights. But then when you are new, you don't know. And you know what? There is a cultural aspect of this. I am from a fighter clan, like, Sikhs are known, right? For not the fist fight, but, in terms of multiple other things, psychology and multiple other factors. But that email actually broke me down. Like, how somebody can say this to someone whom you don't know. I did not share that email with my family, with my wife especially, because she is and she was my companion, but I was like so embarrassed to even share that email. But again, thanks to that person who sent me that email, because that tells me there are two two types of people in your life: those who uplifts you, and those who will never believe in you, who will never say anything to you, but they will try to bring you down. So I don't have any more those second category people in my life, be it my colleague, be it my friend. I'm very fortunate that I have wonderful people. And Ryan, you are also one of the best example. Like, if I look at, all that family which I created after Canada, in terms of, because before I knew nobody, but now with God's grace, I think I can proudly say that I have a big, huge family from east to west coast within Canada.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing that email story with us, because I can just imagine how difficult it was at that time, especially being new and not knowing how to respond and so on. But it's just a phase, and you sharing that story here tonight, and let's chit chat with around that, I can assure you that you are changing lives without knowing it, because I can assure you, people are watching, and people probably have encountered similar situations and so on, and not know themselves how to handle it. But the fact that you mentioned very clearly that there are people who will support you and allow you to grow, and there's some people who will just bring you down no matter what you do, kind of thing. So, and I mean, and I think people get mature in life as well too. When you get to a certain age, and when you get to certain when you're when you're comfortable in life, or when you are confident, you to mention about confidence, you volunteering, you
Oh, yes.
you gain a lot of confidence. Those things doesn't really bother you, because you're so confident in yourself, and know your capability and potential and so on. But I'm glad you took the time to kind of share that. Very
Thank
nicely
you.
done.
Thank you.
So, my dear fellow listeners, for those of you who have just tuned in, you are listening to Let's Chit Chat with Narine. That, keep in mind, there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular radio. That's 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on TV as well, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box on channel 946. And of course, we are live stream or chit chat, so do take the opportunity to share our page. Our guest tonight is Sukhjit Singh, a very talented, very community-minded, oriented person, and that's one of the reasons him and I get along so well, because we understand the importance of giving back. We understand the importance of helping a fellow human being. Um, and the fact that you highlight, Sukhjit, that you are freely offering. I thought I was the only one doing that, but I guess not. I'm so glad you said it. That's very nice of you. Not too many people do that, and I know you do. You know what? And it's important that you do, because you have knowledge, and all you're doing, you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your experiences, because people are benefiting from it, and people are benefiting from it, so you wouldn't want to stop. So usually we take a quick look, and we kind of acknowledge a few people during the show here, and so we'll kind of
Sure.
do that right now. And so obviously people are making some comments and so on. We appreciate all of that. I want to give a special say hello to Girly Prasad. Thank you so much for taking a sneak peek. Very much appreciated. Girly will be joining us this coming Saturday, so we look forward to have her on here. Christine is making some comments here. We appreciate your comments here, Christine. Christine is saying that we have to learn to adopt, which I'm sure you will agree. You kind of share some of that. I want to say hello to Ryan Adams, watching and listening all the way from Guyana.
Oh, wow.
We have, and all of you. Let me just quickly, Lake Ram, Savitri. We have had her daughter perform an item here as well. She's from Toronto. Sandra, Sunil Patel. You probably know Sunil. He's a great singer, and I would love to have him in the show here, but he's a little bit busy. But
Wonderful.
at some point, AJ, thank you guys for watching. I'm hoping you guys are learning, because our guest tonight is sharing some really good information, because the information you share so far, you people have to go to college to learn all of these tricks and tips, man. I can tell you that for sure. You have to pay hundreds of dollars to learn a little bit of a thing there, and things like that. And the fact that you're sharing it freely here is pretty cool. Satish, thank you so much. Radha, um, Javid, all of you. And Daniel, I'm pretty much sure Daniel is paying keen attention here, which is awesome. Daniel is always open to learn and things like that. Kind, we really nice. Lolita, I mean, all of you, we definitely appreciate you taking time to tune in here. It's always nice to have you guys on board for sure. So we talk about obviously challenges. We talk about you and so on, but I mean, you have achieved so much, and so let's talk about some successes now, kind of thing. Like talk about success.
Sure.
We are gonna get to your top 25, awarding, which it's sort of a beautiful thing because, Canada here we have millions of people living here in Canada, and every year they only select 25 people, and the fact that you were selected to be one of those unique 25 people, I think is a beautiful thing. I have the magazine here, by the way. You have it back. So this is way back in
13.
2013.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm gonna try to put it there. So
Oh,
that's
thank you.
yes.
Wow.
So that's that. So the top 25, and we have some really, that I can't remember his name off my head, but that one guy with the glasses, the judge.
Judge,
He
yes.
Yeah, he was born and raised in Jamaica, and
Yeah.
that's people might not recognize me because I probably had a little bit more hair then, but that's
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
but that's me there as well too.
And Steve Nash as well. Steve
Oh,
Nash is there.
oh yes, and look, Steve, exactly, right. So
Yeah.
this group, I think this group, this top 25, not because I'm in it and not because you're in it and you're my guest, but to me, this 25 group, I think that was a well selected group for sure. It was an honor for me to be among that group, and I'm sure it's no different for you. So, what was it like to be chosen as one of the most successful immigrants here in Canada? Because it's extremely difficult to be. Christine, who's watching right now, brought up a good point. A lot of people come to this country too, but they're not doing so well, right? We know that, and it could be big for a variety of different reasons, not understanding the resources, or maybe have pride as well too, because people, as you mentioned, people have good jobs back home
Yeah.
or things, and maybe afraid to ask a neighbor something because they probably saying about, oh, I'm not supposed to do that kind of thing, right? But learning and knowledge is a powerful thing. It's never a bad thing. So what will be one of your greatest achievement or a few of your achievements that you can share with us?
Okay. You know what? Before I say this, because you know what? You have started so beautiful. All these awards, all these recognitions. So what I say, and I clearly remember that when this award ceremony was happening, and I was actually going to the vault where other reporters and media was there.
Mhm.
There was this guy from I forgot the name of the newspaper, but a very well-known person from the ethnic media, and he was just recording, and he said, "Sujit, what does it mean to you? Like you are now one of the top 25 immigrant. What does it mean to you?"
Mhm.
My eyes got a little wet. That excitement, you also know, and especially this prestigious award. I said one word, and I said responsibility. Now I have to live with this for rest of my life, that Canadian chose me as one of the top 25 immigrants.
Mhm.
And standing next to Steve Nash and individuals like yourself and multiple others. And now if you look at when they were celebrating 10 years of these awards, when I look at the names and I said, you know what, how fortunate you are. I'm not using the word luck, first of all.
No, it wasn't luck. That's for
And
sure.
I tell you the story of luck also. Believe it or not, there was no award, nothing. It was 2010, year 2010. I just got my job. And after a few months, there was a conference. And it was up in the north in Natavasaga. And there were more than 200 to 300 people there for the conference from the same sector. And you know what? There were introductions and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And you know what? This trivia game where they say who is how much old in Canada and all. And when they were saying, 2 years, 3 years, and you know what? They did stop after 1 year, like 1.5 year, like that. But then I raised my hand, like I am less than a year in Canada. And you know what? Every head was towards me, like, you are here in Canada for less than a year. How come you got the job so fast and this and that? That was like a murmur behind, right?
Mhm.
But then I was so fortunate because, as I said, you know what? There are two types of people.
Mm-hmm.
So there was somebody in the crowd, and especially at lunchtime, he came up to me and he gave something to me, and the letter was LUCK. And to that group, he explained, this chap is not lucky. And this was the same guy with whom I met for the first time. And I shared my story. I shared everything that what I have done in Canada. And he explained it later on. L stands for learning. U stand for under. C, competent. And K is for knowledge. He gave it to me, but he did explain to the rest of those individuals that luck is kind of a word which we sometimes misuse it. So, and then I remember from that day onward, it is not luck, it is your hard work, it is your authentic work, it is your, and again, it's not my work, honestly. And I want to quote this, and I forgot the name of the person who said, but it always stays with me. It says, if you help enough people to get what they want, you get what you want. And honestly, did I want those awards? Maybe yes and no. But I'll tell you one thing. What I wanted was identity. What I wanted was to make and leave a mark. And it goes like it is a written also somewhere in the magazine. When I had no job, I was volunteering. And it was asking me, my profile was publishing. I'm referring to a magazine where my profile was published when I was seeking a job, when I was looking for a job. And that question was, what is your Canadian dream? And my Canadian dream was to become a role model and success story for fellow immigrants. Had no idea that that magazine was published in 2010, and 2013 I was on the cover page of the same magazine. So is it me? Yes. In terms of body, yes. But what is behind that? It is that fire to help others. It is fire to actually make my own identity, right? So all this, and you know what? As I said again, these awards, RBC 25, 100%. But these awards comes with a lot of responsibility. And I tell you one thing, that responsibility, definitely you get more visibility, you get more exposure, right? But that responsibility, you have to live with that responsibility. And I feel Canada bestowed me that in 2013. And I am very fortunate that I keep my mission, which is to connect right people, to connect, make right connections, and help each other so that we can all flourish in this beautiful country, which we now call home. But yes, every time, and you see, you showed your magazine. If your viewers can see, on top of that is my cover page of that magazine.
Let me bring
the
you to
first
the
award.
top, sir. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to tell you that how much it means to me to be on the cover page of that magazine. And then once that Pandora box opened of awards, till date, I'm very fortunate. I can tell you, like, you know what? It started in 2013, and then in the same year, I got Newcomer Gem Volunteer Award. In 2014, by the Peel Leadership Center, I was chosen as a most collaborative leader. And in 2016, I was honored that Career Professionals of Canada gave me Outstanding Community Outreach Strategist Award. And the biggest, till date, this still give me sometimes goosebumps. I also got Canada highest award from the Governor General of Canada. It is Sovereign Medal for Volunteers for year 2018, which was given to me in 2019. So in terms of all these awards, every single award comes with a responsibility. I'm very fortunate that my work is being recognized. My dedication, my hard work has been recognized, and it is very important that your work has been recognized. That is kind of a fuel to your engine, which keeps you going, and it's very important.
Correct. And I'm glad you said that, because sometimes people don't get it. You know, I mentioned on this show before that the feelings of my, I'm just speaking for myself, and I'm glad you said it as well. The feelings you get when you are being honored, in whatever way that may be, whether that be, an award or ceremony, and whatever the case may be, it never fades away for me. And I think you can relate to that. The feelings is always the same, and it kind of gives you that extra fire, or it continue to fuel you to kind of keep going, because you have a purpose, you have, a role to play, you have a responsibility, and so on. So I'm glad that you are seeing it that way as well too. But you have lots of fire in there, so I don't think that
Thank
fire is
you.
going to go out anytime soon. That's for
Thank you.
sure. But
Thank you very much.
what I would like to do, this is a very short clip. I would like to highlight this so that people can see. And this is regarding the top 25 immigrant award. So if that's
Oh,
okay with you, let me kind of get this ball rolling here so people can see firsthand, because this is very prestigious. So I will give the opportunity to people to take a look at it. I'm just trying to set up things here. Okay, so what I'll do, yeah, so it's right here. It's only a couple of seconds.
After a few months, I got RBC Top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award. I felt on the top of the world. I felt that my efforts were recognized by the citizens of Canada, because it is a People's Choice Award. I came in 2009, and within the first 3 months, I got my first volunteer opportunity. I became very passionate about giving back to the community.
Awesome. Yes, I just thought
thank you for sharing with your viewers. And Narine, through you, I definitely would love to convey my thanks those who are watching your show, and I'm really honored to be here with you, with all of your viewers also. Thank you once again to all of those who are watching your show right now.
Oh no, for sure. We are happy to have you on here, because keep in mind, a person like you, I'm not trying to compare anybody here, but we are all unique and different in our own way. We know that. We learn that in psychology courses and so on, and in social work and things like that. But the bottom line is, some of us have more energy than some, right? And what you mentioned earlier, certain things is not luck. If you put energy and if you put passion into anything, you are going to see results. So because you are so passionate about helping people, that's one of the reasons, people, you can see things are happening for people, whether that be them finding a job, whether that be them feel more settled into their new community, and so on. And those awards, are are ways to prove that you are, you are edge above a lot of people, which is not a bad thing, because we all have potential, and it's up to us to kind of use, our potential and our resources and so on, to kind of be the best version of ourselves. And I can tell you, you are using every piece of yourself to really maximize things. And I'm very proud of you and very happy that you are doing that, because
Thank you.
we definitely need people like you. So the thing is, every community needs people like you, because you need active people. You need people who will be willing to share ideas. You need people who will be willing to respond to emails, even when it's after hours, and not even worrying about, I'm not getting paid for it and so on, right? These are things that we do. I get what you're saying. These are things we do without even thinking about it. But it's who you are. It is, those you're doing it because it's part of you. It's part of you being a human being. It's part of you being a proud Canadian as well too. So good for you on that. We are approaching 8 o'clock, but we usually go over a little bit more, because I do have 1 or 2 more questions for you. We'll take full advantage of that for sure. I know we talk about this off the air. As you know, I'm a politician. I think one of the reasons why I get into politics in the first place is because, as a community leader, I recognize the needs in the community, and I want, basically I will want to see better things happen, in our community, to make it more vibrant and all of that. And so that's one of the reasons I get into it. No other reason, kind of thing, right? If I was to look at a person like you, with your passion, your energy, understanding the needs in the community, I think that a person like you, who has been there to do the groundwork, has a better understanding when it comes to the needs of the people, right? You can bring Jack from back and give a good speech, but if they don't understand the needs of the people, it wouldn't work that way. It might be a good way to put up a good show. You will be a good politician, in my opinion. We don't have to be politicians, though. I'm aware of that, to do good things for the community, to achieve results, and to really make an impact. Will you ever consider being a politician? Because as you know, here in Canada, anybody, can have that opportunity. Like I have tried and things of that kind. Will you consider running for politics, or would you just do what you do best without getting into politics, or will you participate in a different way?
I will go with your second advice. And I now again not lighter side of my life, but I tell you one thing. If right now I know my family, my wife, and my in-laws in Australia, my extended family in UK, and my parents in India, they are watching this show. And I have to, before I give answer to this question quickly, I have to tell you one thing.
Sure.
My family, my grandfather, his brothers, everybody was so politically involved, I can't even tell you. I grew up with stories of India independence and the contribution my grandparents did in that fight. And till date, my father is very actively involved in politics in India. So I know what politics is. But here comes your question.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to tell you one thing. My best companion in Canada is my life partner. And there is one thing she told me. If you ever think about it, I would be the first person to leave you. So I won't
so I guess I know the answer to that question.
But with all due respect to politicians, I have very good friends who are in politics. I have very good individuals who try to run every time. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. I can tell you, I got a better understanding of politics in Canada, both provincially, not both, like three levels of government, municipally, provincially, and federally. But I tell you one thing, I feel that every individual got their role to do. And I'm happy with my role because I do feel that I'm fit for this role. I may not be fit for politics. And I definitely will say this with confidence that there are wonderful people who are in politics. But for me, okay, I also have to admit one thing. They say never say no.
Never say never. That's right.
Never say never. Never say never. So I don't want to lie, but I tell you one thing, I don't have any intention to go into politics. But I do have intention to support those who do good work, and which I've been doing it, and which I'll continue to do that.
No, and that's a fair answer. I think that's right. I just thought I ask. You're right. If you feel that you are a good fit for the role you play right now, I think that's great, because only you can tell what you're feeling inside. But the way I'm seeing it from outside as well too, I have to tell you, you are good in what you do. There's no question about that. I've been told those things many times too. People say to me, Narine, why would you want to get into politics? But I think I already answered that question. So that's totally fair. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking. This was a tough question, honestly.
And again, I'm glad you kind of took it, and you answer it and you didn't bluff it up. And that's totally fair. You don't have to be, you are a perfect example to show that you do not have to be in politics to make positive change, in the community. You're doing it, so nicely, and so you don't have to wait. And the good thing about not being in politics too, or when you're running some independent project and so on, is that you can do things faster and quicker, because you don't need approval too for certain things, and it has to be done in a certain way as well too. If you're helping people, you're helping those people willingly. You're helping them because you have that knowledge and so on. So you don't have to wait an approval, and somebody to say, well, I want to do this, should I make that approach and whatnot. So I think, what you said there is not a bad thing. So what advice do you have, though, specifically? You may have mentioned it in between as you were responding, because you nicely took your time to respond, but very specifically, though. But in Canada here, we have people, I know the COVID thing, slow it down a little bit, but you know, in Canada, Canada has its strength
Yeah,
from immigrants all over the world.
yeah,
So people are coming to Canada not only from Guyana, not only from India. I know we have a large Indian community here, even in the region of Guadalupe, large here too, but all over the place. Sometimes people do their research, of course, before they come. A lot of people do that, but sometimes for some reason the research looks a little bit different when they're
yes,
researching from outside, because
yes,
there's
yes,
only
yes.
so much you can find online, and it's not, because a lot of people, when they're posting or when they're doing something or on their website or on their organization site, everything looks extremely shiny as well too, so you don't get to see the other pieces when you're meeting and greeting and so on. What advice do you have, for future immigrants coming into this beautiful country?
Yeah.
So that way, if they're listening right now, we hope they are. We hope people take the privilege to share this page, because this
Mhm,
will be key what you're saying now. What
mhm.
advice do you actually have for them so that their transition can be one of beauty, one of an easiness, so to speak, one where they can speak proudly the way you spoke earlier, to say that they were welcome, with warmth and all of that, but also you were able to find job quicker than
Yeah.
other people thought, things like that. You were able to kind of achieve things quicker and so on. Whatever you see here will be a very powerful statement. So what advice do you have for new immigrants coming in?
I wish I can make my statement very long, which I won't be doing it. I tell you one thing, definitely ground reality when you actually land would be completely different than whatever you see online.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say prepare well so that you know this is how your life will look like. But when you come, you need to prepare yourself financially, because if you are actually landing in Canada as a skilled immigrant, you are supposed to have some money in your bank account. So you know that you can survive. Number one. Number two, make sure you enroll yourself in any program which is a job related program, so that you know the nitty gritty of how to look for a job. Do not just go blindly and start applying for jobs, because then the more negativity and the more less response from the other party will add on to your anxiety, right? So preparedness is the key, and that is what advice I will give it to you, but or to your listeners actually. But honestly, to tell you the thing,
Mm-hmm.
every single individual is different. How they deal with this pressure is different, but there are few things which you can always do. And this is the best analogy which somebody gave it to me, because I have my IT background, and they say when your operating system is running low or you need a new operating system, what you will do, or if your system gets hang up, what you will do, you restart. So coming to Canada is restart or installing a new operating system on your, it is overwriting your old operating system, but with the choice that anytime you want to go back, you can check. Go back means you have something like a thermostat in your body. You will adjust your temperature. But yes, make sure that you understand, I call it cultural nuances. And I give one example. I did not drink Tim Horton for 6 to 7 months because I never knew that Tim Horton was so important, right? But it was a cultural thing.
Of
And the
course.
moment I started holding Tim Horton, I felt more Canadian. See, there are very small, and in my case, Narine, I have to share this with you.
Yes, please do.
Maybe people from Guyana or from all those countries. Remember, I'm coming from India. I'm a Sikh by religion. I wear turban. This is my crown.
Mm-hmm.
When I was told, and this was a very good advice, which was given to me by a non-Sikh, as somebody who did not belong to my community, did not belong to my country, did not speak my language, did not eat the food. She told me the safe colors to wear at the time of the interview. And I was really like, because I love colors. You know, if you look at my pictures,
Oh
I
yeah,
have not millions, but many colors,
I
right?
know. I love my colors too, man.
Right. So, but then somebody told me, somebody took pain in explaining why colors are important, why dressing is important in the way. which Canadians, like when I say Canadian means which you won't be seen as a different person, like if you are wearing a bright color, because I do know that I have some bright colors which were not appropriate for the interview, right? So many things, but if I have to say, and lastly, I want to say, take advice from known, unknown, whoever comes to your life. But all that advice may not work for you. What will work for you, you only know the best. But preparation is the key, and that key definitely will make you succeed, settle, and integrate faster. And definitely, I say this, maybe you won't be in position to volunteer right away, but as soon as you know that you can give some time to the community, please start volunteering. Through that, I know how much I have learned and how much it contributed to my success. This is what I wanted to share. Thank you, Narine.
No, thank you for sharing that, because it will be very helpful, because I mean I know so many people who get stuck, and the fact that you are sharing this here will be very helpful. So maybe not that we do what we do, but maybe by you sharing this, it will save people from sending them an email to you or to me or to somebody else, because people will be sharing this, so they are going to have conversation. I'm hoping that I've seen Sukhjit on the Let's Chat with Narine show, and he mentioned about that. You brought up a very good point, which I have to agree with you. Of course, you are going to give pointers to people based on what works for you and so on, and vice versa. But those pieces might not work for everybody, which is fine. But it's important for people to be open, as you mentioned, to listen to people, to hear listen to what they're saying, and then maybe try to apply those pieces to really make it work for you. But if I was to summarize what you say there are opportunities here, but you really have to dig and seek before you find them. It wouldn't be just laying there for you and you just go and you pick it up and say, okay, this is awesome, I got it here, now I'm going to take it home. You may have to dig a little bit deeper. You may have to apply apply to several jobs and so on.
Yeah.
Right. And this whole job thing here too. One of the things we should talk about a job thing too. You mentioned about the resume earlier. I have to reflect back on the resume, because this all comes back to tips, in terms of finding job. The resume thing, one thing I can tell you, especially if I'm not sure if it's an Indian thing, they have long resumes, 7 to 8 pages. I've seen it all the time. And one starter, for those of you who are watching, and Sukhjit can jump in anytime here, the standard here in Canada is usually 2 pages plus a cover letter. That seems to be standard kind of thing. Depending if it's a more of a high-tech job, some people may accept another page or so, but generally speaking, 2 pages. Technically, less is more, because when you go for an interview, you will have the opportunity to say whatever you need to say. So it's not an issue. The resume pretty much gives you the opportunity for an interview kind of thing, right? The resume. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Is there any other pieces you would like to say that I didn't get to ask you? I know you.
Just one last thing, Narine.
Oh, yes. You go right ahead.
No matter what we talk about people in your life, but I tell you one thing, in this land of opportunity, you do have wonderful people. So be a newcomer or you're not newcomer, have at least 5 to 6. This is another successful tip which somebody very prominent gave it to like it is written there, but gave it to me in person. Have at least 5 positive people in your life. And those 5 positive people, allow them to be very truthful to you, very genuine, and very direct to you. They will uplift your life, because we all have blind spots. I'm so blessed that I have those more than 5 people in my life as a mentor, advisor, or some of friends. I am blessed that I can ask them what I'm doing wrong. And I have given my permission to them that please, if I deviate from my path, the path I have shared with you, please correct me. If you see any action from my end which goes not in the direction I was supposed to go, please do that. And that is very uplifting. You know what? And of course, your viewers can see I take help from from the books also. So there is a lot said in terms of your job search, in terms of life in general, right? What worked for me may not work for you, but maybe one thing which I said or which Narine said will work for you, and then you can build whole empire on that. And this is where I build my empire. And thank you once again for listening to my story.
So awesome. We're not done yet. I need you to share a few things you're grateful for. But before we do that, I like the fact that you do the top. You talk about having 5 people, for mentorship and so on. One of the things we normally promote on our show here is the top 5. We call it that top 5. So we encourage people to reach out to 5 people who know more than them, so they can rely and reach out to those people.
Yes, yes.
Because I'm sure you'll agree with me, and I think that's one of the reasons why you
100%.
share it. You nail it there, because if you don't surround yourself with people, and I mentioned many times, but I'm so glad you said it, and it's worth highlighting again. If people don't surround themselves with people who know more than them, then pretty much you will always remain at that one level. You'll stay stuck. But if you reach out to people who you can, you can count on, then life will be so much more easy. And I'm glad you said that we all have blind spots, and we need to kind of have some guidance. It doesn't matter what stage and level we get into life. So you really nail it. But just before we close out, what will be some of the things that you are very much grateful for in your life, despite the fact that all of us go through challenges in life?
I know. But this is a great question. Thank you very much. I will tell you one thing. I am grateful for many things. First of all, my DNA. I'm grateful for having lovely family. My family, my both side, my wife's side, my extended family, great friends. And I'm also grateful for all the mistakes I have done and learning from those mistakes and promising myself that I will never do those mistakes. I'm grateful to the country where I was born. I'm grateful to the country which gave me my first chance to work outside India, which was Oman. I'm also grateful, and I'm now talking about Canada. I'm grateful about this wonderful country which accepted me as an immigrant and allowed me to flourish. And I'm also grateful to all those wonderful people. I can't be leaving this discussion without even mentioning that I was helped by many. And all those people are still in my life, and I can't thank them enough for being a support always. Whenever I needed their support, I was present, I am still present, and they are always present. And above all, Narine, and your name is so beautiful, it is God, right? I always believe that there is something which we call God who lives, or she or he, I don't know the gender, but this is, I always say, Almighty God, who makes us to do what we are supposed to do. But definitely, I am very fortunate. I'm thankful again to my family and big circle of friends. I always count their support. If I am free, if I am freely doing whatever I'm doing, I could not have done without their support, without their encouragement. And I really mean it. I really mean it. So thank you, Narine. I just have to say this overall, I'm grateful for this wonderful life, this country, and the country I was born, country where I have worked, just to wrap it up. Thank you, Narine. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And so just before we go though, Christine, one of our viewers, is asking a question here. So usually we randomly ask a question. So you probably are already doing this, but let's hear it from you, because we all do it. We don't necessarily make it known. So Christine is asking, would you go back to Punjab to help your mother country, or to retire there?
In terms of help, I don't need to go back and help. I'm helping it from here, number one. Number two, my family is there. My parents are there. My sisters are there. I travel frequently. My parents do travel frequently here to Canada. But I always say, you said Christine asked this question. Wonderful question.
Yeah, good
this
question.
This is the dilemma, which I don't know when I have more gray hair, when my life will change. But I tell you one thing. I chose Canada because I wanted to live here. I chose Canada because I decided to leave that motherland and be son of this motherland so that I can have wonderful life. But I always say the one thing: never forget from where you come from, because in Hindi or in Punjabi we say it, Janam Bhumi, where you were born. I am always attached to my Janam Bhumi, but you have a role here, which is your Karam Bhumi now. You migrated. So my honesty, my dedication goes to both these wonderful countries. And definitely I always contribute to both these countries, be it my volunteer or be it another kind of help in India. So good question, but I can't say that because I don't know. I never plan. Like, you know what? People ask, what is your future plan? I plan my day, and max I do plan a little bit beyond that. But I always say thank to God the day when it started, this day when it is over. Because next day morning, you don't know.
Mhm.
Thank you, Christine. This is wonderful question because, okay, on lighter side of life, my mom, my mother, with her, I always have this kind of open discussion, right?
Mhm.
And I miss my parents a lot. I miss my family. I miss my friends, right? But it's now been 22 years I have left my home country. It was my choice to come to Canada or to go somewhere else, right? But again, I can't answer because I don't know. But that is not the plan at this moment.
All right. So thank you for taking time to answer that. It was such of a pleasure, obviously, to have you here. It's such of a rich conversation. I'm so glad that we reached out to you because we knew that you were going to share some important pieces that that's actually needed. It's these pieces that you share. These are information that a lot of people need to hear, and I think you've done it well. That's how we actually plan our show in the first place, right? Because I'm sure you're receiving emails constantly, whether that be through our messages, whether that be through LinkedIn or Facebook or personal email. People always need help
Yes.
and support and so on. Because as you know, here in the region of Waterloo, we have like the two universities, we have colleges and so on. So lots of immigrants living here, a lot of students and so on. So it's not uncommon for people to kind of reach out.
Yeah.
And so the purpose of this show, obviously, we do bring in a lot of artists and things of that kind to showcase them and so on. That's what we do because I love the arts and so on. But one of the things we do is that we try to address the need. So we look at the need and we kind of figure out what will be best topic or who will be like a good person to have on the show. And so when we realize that there's a need to share the information you share here tonight, you were the first person who came to mind because I can see that you have it with pride. I mean, I kept mine for so many years as well too. When I look at the magazine, how can I not think of somebody like you there?
Thank you. Thank you,
You have
Brian.
so much to share. I hope everybody else. I have to touch base with some of those guys. I hope they're all doing well. I know everybody's busy with their own life, but so that's one of the reasons we reach out to you, and we are so glad we did that. So what would like you to do? Just hang in there. Don't go anywhere. We'll chit chat for another minute or so. Sometimes people get confused and they kind of sign up. So
Sure.
my dear fellow
Sure.
listeners, as we're approaching the end of tonight's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to Let's Chit Chat with Narine. Please remember to tune in to us again tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern time, that is, for another special episode of Let's Chit Chat with Narine. On behalf of myself and our guests, a loving, community-minded person who you can reach out to anytime, that he does what he does best. On behalf of him and myself, Sukhjit Singh, we would like to join together and wish you a great today and even a better tomorrow. So again, please join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern time, because we'd love to have you join us again. So again, good night. Have yourself a great today and even a better tomorrow.